CSI, Hong Kong, Global. It's very easy to look at these names, and even I get confused sometimes. So it's important that you understand what the underlying assets are. It's always good to look at, for example, they say balanced fund, and they could actually have what is the percentage of the weighting between equities and bonds. You wouldn't know. That's why you need to look at the details or talk to someone who can help. And we'll make a comparison by looking at the performance of BOC versus the peers in the market in the past 10 years, with the monthly contribution of 2,000 Hong Kong dollars or a total of 240,000. I'm gonna skip this. Now again, this chart gives you exactly the same impression. And if you remember, the most aggressive fund, which is growth fund, in this particular chart here, outperforms the most conservative one, which is conservative fund here. So 6.04 versus 0.94. In between you have balanced and stable fund. Again, it's not the numbers that I want to draw your attention to. If you look at this chart, the same principle applies, meaning the relationship between volatility, profitability, and suitability. That is what I want to emphasize today. This is a summary of our previous chart. As you can see, in this growth fund, in the stable fund and the conservative fund, BOC outperformed the market. But then in this, as the growth fund and the balanced fund, that the peers outperformed BOC. Now, what is very interesting here is that I want to draw your attention to the choices you have inside a provider. And why is that? If you look at this particular chart, there are only 4 choices, and even if you get the highest performing fund, which is growth fund, you only get 6.04% here. And what did we get previously from HSBC? The highest return from HSBC, you get 9.06. And what does that tell you? Well, because in this particular platform, we've got Hang Seng Index Tracking Fund, and it makes all the difference. So in addition to the 3 factors I mentioned, you've got to look at the kind of choices you have in any given service provider. And that's why we have invited some service providers in the pantry today. And you can ask all the questions you want. And why is that? Because if you pick a platform that does not have many choices, or the choices that you want, you will never get to where you want to be. Let's say if I want to go to Russia, which airline do I pick? You guys, right? So, because BOC has actually increased a lot of the fund choices in the past 5 years, so I've made another comparison based on the past 5 years. So again, I will be comparing BOC with the peers in the market with a monthly contribution of $2,000 or a total of 120,000. So again, I'm not going to repeat myself. If you look at this chart, you can see that the most or the highest performing fund is Hong Kong Equity Fund, which is the most aggressive or the most volatile. So if you look at this chart, the same principle applies. This is a summary of the previous page. So as you can see, BOC only outperforms the market in the Japan Equity Fund. And the market outperformed BOC in Hong Kong Equity, Asian Equity, Global Equity, and Bond Fund. So, as I said, choices are very important. Let's see what we have. You've got 19 trustees or service providers, 41 registered MPF schemes, 22 fund categories, and 500 funds in the market. So this is a very good question. How do I grow my MPF without an extra penny? I would say you can pick or review your MPF consolidate your overall investments, and you build and manage your own portfolio with a professional. Advertisement time, you need a private consultation. So with the launching of ECA, what are the benefits that you have today? Increased control, increased potential growth, and enhanced retirement fund. So how can a professional management enhance my MPF? So today I will give you 3 magic keys. We've got champion trustee, diversification, and style wealth managers. So let's look at the power of a champion trustee. What is that? In order to explain that, I've prepared 3 case studies. So the first 2 case study is based on the performance of the past 10 years, whereas the third one is based on the past 5 years. So with this base, we will project the next 35 years with a monthly contribution of $2,000 also, or a total of $840,000. So based on this assumption, you will see the huge difference in the performance in 35 years. Case study 1, I have selected guaranteed fund for the comparison. So HSBC versus peers, the difference is 317,565. Or in other words, if you have selected the peers, you would have made $317,565 more. HSBC versus Fund A. Now, what is Fund A? Obviously, in this seminar, we're not going to disclose this fund manager's name, but later in our private sessions, you can talk to us and we'll tell you who those Fund A, B, C, D, E, F, G are. The difference is $727,982. So, in other words, if you have selected Fund Manager A, you would have made $727,982 more. HSBC versus Fund B. In this case, the difference is almost $1 million. In other words, if you have selected Fund Manager B, you would have made $972,874 more. Now, it's getting very interesting because the difference is getting bigger. Well, let's look at case study 2. I have selected another category, which is the mixed asset fund. Like I mentioned earlier, those names can be pretty confusing, even for professionals. So what is a mixed asset fund? It is something that is composed of 60 to 80% equities, and we're assuming the rest to be like bonds or fixed income products. So HSBC versus peers. In this category, the difference is $655,016. HSBC versus Fund C. The difference is almost $1 million. It's $994,076. In other words, if you have selected Fund C, you would have made almost $1 million more. And HSBC versus Fund D. The difference is almost $2 million. Now I can see that nobody's falling asleep today. I'm pretty happy. So if you, in other words, have selected Fund D, you would have made $1.979,891 million more. That's quite substantial. But wait till you look at other comparisons. In the case study 3, I have selected Global Equity Fund, a different category. So I've used a different comparison here. I use BOC versus peers. And you can see the difference is almost $1 million. Why is that?